Welcome to this latest edition of FIU Insights, Cybersecurity in a Pandemic. How do you protect yourself and your data in the new normal of remote work and remote learning? This is a difficult time for all of us. We're in an unprecedented situation of working remotely, and we want to know how we can do it safely and securely. We have a terrific panel of FIU experts to join us to answer your questions and figure out how we can get through this together. With us is Helvi Longoria, Chief Information Security Officer here at FIU. Also joining us is Alexander Perez-Pons, Professor in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. With us as well is Alexander Crowther, who has a dual appointment as Visiting Research Professor in both the Jack D. Gordon Institute of Public Policy and the Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice. And last but not least is Brian Fonseca, the director of the Jack D. Gordon Institute for Public Policy. Thanks very much to all of you for joining us here today. We received some questions from students and others ahead of this conversation, and one of the questions was, how is FIU handling what has to be an unprecedented demand for remote access and remote work?
So you are correct. This is unprecedented, and it has been very challenging in some ways, and in other ways it has been enlightening. To move a remote workforce such as the one FIU has, plus our 57,000 plus students to an online platform, takes a lot of work and a lot of time and commitment from everybody, not only the IT teams, the faculty, the staff, and as well as the students and the leadership of the institution. There's a lot of things we need to take into consideration. There's a lot of things that we need to account for. And cybersecurity is a major one of them.
And how would you say the university is, are we at full capacity in terms of remote access, or is that something where we can do more if we need to?
So as far as full capacity in the terms of our technology and our capabilities, we still have room to add more if we need to. We did see, we do track the numbers of users connecting remotely, and we have quadrupled, for example, our access to VPN. So our usage prior to us going to a remote workforce to now, there's a quadruple amount of users, concurrent users connecting to our VPN. And that is a good measuring point to show what has spiked and what hasn't spiked. We can also measure based on the users that are authenticating remotely from different parts of geographical locations, right? Versus everybody coming in through the FIU network or through Miami locations. We are seeing more of a diverse IP range from all regions of the United States connecting back to resources within the United States.
And let me ask you one more question, then I'll bring in the other panelists here. A question that came in from social media was, what resources does FIU have to offer to enhance individuals' cybersecurity if they are in need?
We offer VPN access to all our remote workers. We encourage everybody to connect via VPN. That is a secure method for them to connect to internal resources. We created a matrix that allows users and employees to understand what are their IT requirements in order to connect securely. There are some resources that are available publicly, so those don't really need to come in through a VPN. So if you're doing work through a normal web interface or something that's already out on the internet, there's really no need for you to connect through a VPN. However, if you're accessing internal databases, or you're accessing internal file shares, or you're accessing any other type of internal resource, the VPN is the way to go. We are also offering virtual desktops for those employees that may not have a computer that they can utilize that has the VPN, the capabilities to VPN, or they might not have the ability to secure these endpoints. So VDI gives you the ability to connect through a virtual desktop, which has already been secured, and it gives you the access to the applications and the services that you need.
Great. Let me turn to Alex Pons if I can. And Alex, if you can maybe add to some of the measures that individuals can take. We'll come back to the threats that we all face. But since Helvi has given us a very good direction on what individuals can do and what the university can do to help, can you maybe also add to what individual users can do?
Well, you should always be very cautious when you're dealing with security issues. And one of the things we should always be vigilant is, how do you maintain your home network secure? It should start there, because that's where you normally are connecting into FIU or other resources. So, simple things you should do is make sure your computer is updated, your OS is updated. You have good antivirus, you keep it updated also. If you have a firewall, a software firewall, make sure that that's activated, make sure that no one can get in to your system or to your network. Wi-Fi is another one that I think it's very critical to. Not many people use as a Wi-Fi network name their home address or their information, their name, their last name, and that creates opportunities for individuals to maybe gain access or become curious and try to penetrate your local network. Now, it has to start there. It has to start with your home and how you're taking care of those resources. Now, when you're connecting, as Helvi mentioned, VPN into your secure, so you can have security in your communications. People don't use VPN as much, but if you're using any public Wi-Fi, VPN is a must. You can even VPN when you're outside of your home into your home resources. If you have home systems that you want to be able to remote desktop into your own home, VPN into your own home setting. But definitely when you're accessing FIU resources, and as Helvi mentioned, things that are open source outside of the FIU network, don't burden the system by using the VPN. But definitely, if you're going to access anything on site that you would normally be working with, interacting with co-workers or any critical information, definitely use the VPN resources.
And one question, Alex, to you, and then I'll come to Brian and Alex. What about password management, password managers, how safe they are, and are they worth the cost? Those were questions that came from outside.
Well, I'll give you my views on that. I think password managers are good to use. I don't have a problem with them, but who are you getting the password manager from is my issue. So make sure that you review, you have confidence on who made that password manager, who is keeping it. And then there are some managers that are better than others. There are some that will give you more robust passwords to be able to use for your different resources you're gaining access to. But I would do your homework, make sure you look at the reviews, and make sure that it comes from a reputable source, not someone that you just picked up. A lot of folks, for example, are using the one from Apple that Apple provides. That one I don't have a problem with, although third-party password providers seem to be doing a better job when it comes to having longer and more stronger passwords that they use for your resources and keep your resources safe and protected.
Brian, let me come to you and ask what other steps might you add to the helpful advice that Helvi and Alex have given us?
Great question. And so just to build off of something that both Helvi and Alex said, it begins with us as individuals and a culture of suspicion when we're engaging online. We should always scrutinize everything that we click on, download, plug into our systems as a matter of practice and proper cyber hygiene. In addition to passwords, VPN, some of the other things I think you have to do is you should always keep your systems fully up to date. Oftentimes, updates enable patches that are very important to ensure security in your systems. And so updating software is really important. I think you also have to be very wary of phishing scams and emails that are coming through that are trying to force you in this a very important time of fear and hysteria. A lot of people are very nervous. And so you may get emails that are preying on that fear and insecurity. And they're asking you to log into your bank account or some other personal utility account. And if you don't scrutinize that email properly, you might find yourself giving an attacker all of your access credentials. And so part of what we suggest is that you often go directly to the source. So for example, if you get a message from your bank, don't click on the link in the email to get the message. Instead, go directly to your bank and sign into your account and click in the message section. So always go to those, those really important sites in sort of an organic manner and not necessarily rely on the emails to get you there. So I think those are a few important things to add, because now is a time in which a lot of attackers, and we're seeing this, a lot of attackers are preying on the fact that we're all connected, that we have, as Helvi pointed out, exponential connectivity at this point, and not just in the systems we use, to conduct work, but all of the other systems in our home networks, right? Because we're now operating multiple devices in our home. And so we have to be vigilant across the entire network and portfolio devices that we use in the house.
Great, thanks. Alex Crowther, sorry. Let me turn to you and ask you for any additional tips you might have, but also if you could bring in the criminal justice program as well, the criminal activity that might pick up at a time like this when those engaged in this kind of nefarious activity might see more vulnerable individuals out there.
Thank you, David. I would add for security, multi-factor authentication. This is where when you log into, say, your bank account, they send you a text message on a separate device, your telephone usually, that you then have to put in order to do that. That way, if somebody's trying to log into your accounts, they can't do that because they don't have your phone. As far as my tocayo, Alex Pons, reference passwords, I would add a little bit to that. Don't make them easy. Bad guys use what's called a password spray, and they just shoot they take the top 100 passwords in use in the world and then just run them past you. The #1 password in the United States is password. The #2 is some variant of 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 9. And then another one that I would do on that one is change my default passwords. When you look at your router, it has what one would think is a very strong, long password with different characters in it, but they give the defaults based on the serial number. So serial number 1 through 1000 has default password #1, and 1001 to 2000 have default password #2. So all the bad guy has to do is figure out what your router serial number is, and then they can find the password. In terms of crime, boy, the criminals are out. They like it when there's a factor of the unknown. When people are scared, they want to get out there. And so you're seeing a lot more phone calls claiming to be, I'm your software guy, or other ones would be charities. Hey, we're working on coronavirus, so send us money. Other ones are scams using fake medicines, fake cures, fake face masks, things like that, selling them online. And so the criminals are out there. They're looking for your bank account numbers, like Brian was saying. They're calling you and saying your social security number has been turned off. So immediately go to this and give us this personal information and we'll turn it back on. So the criminals are out even stronger than normal.
And Helvi, I think we've certainly seen emails in the past and going through computer security training where FIU makes it clear individuals will never receive an email or a phone call asking for their passwords or how people access their accounts, if you can just reinforce that message.
That is correct. Anytime that somebody reaches out to you asking you for a password or any type of account information, you need to be worried about that and not reply to them. I do want to add that just this week alone, the FBI did issue a warning that there has been a high escalation in phishing attacks related to COVID-19, right? False information. Everybody's out there trying to get information on what's going on, what's the latest news, and there's fake pages being brought up. They're sending email messages, they're calling, they're sending text messages. So we just have to be very cautious and just go to the resources, the direct resources for information instead of the feeds that you're getting, whether it's social media or your email or any other means, because that is a big issue. And we have seen even internally where we have seen an uptick in phishing emails. Anywhere related to COVID, there's also IRS related phishing attacks. And then you always have the ones that have been around for quite a few months already, the gift card scams, right? Even now they're twisting it a little bit saying, well, I can't go out. Can you please call me back? I need X, Y, or Z. So just be very cautious. So at FIU, we did implement the external banner notice, which basically alerts or notifies the user receiving the message when they are receiving a message from an external email account or email domain. For example, if you get an email from a professor or you get an email from your dean stating that they need your help, that they need you to call you, and it has this warning, you need to be cautious, because what has happened is they'll create fake Gmail accounts or fake Yahoo accounts and send them on behalf, impersonating this faculty member or this dean, asking you to do something. So again, this is just a warning where it's not for you to not to open it, because there might be some valid external emails that you are expecting, but it is to kind of make you think and stop. Should I do this? Should I not?
Great. Alex Pons, let me come to you to address some of the other questions that have come in from social media for you or for others, but I'll start with you. One question is, should I cover up my webcam when it's not being used? So I have this little strip of paper when I'm not using the camera, I put over the camera. Is that just a silly thing for me to do, or is that advisable?
No, I think you're just being really prudent about your own security. I mean, given the terrain on how hackers are gaining access to your systems and then able to turn on the microphone, your video camera, you really don't know if you have a malware. And once the malware is activated on your system, it can gain access to those resources, then activate them and then send a feed to the hackers. In fact, a lot of times your phone is also at risk. Many times you might get a link and you click on that link, and the link can install an application. And that application can exfiltrate text messages, your any chats that you might have, and including phone conversations. So yeah, by all means, I have no problem. The more vigilant you are in your security, my motto is trust nothing. So and it's a sad indictment that we have to live in a time where we need to be really cautious, and security starts with the individual. I don't believe that we can put trust in our institutions, in our governments, and our other agencies. It has to start with the individual. And I think by you putting that, covering your camera eye is something that you're taking security in your own hands. And at the end of the day, you might not have anything, but it sure doesn't hurt to try to put it on there.
Sure, it gives a slight bit of reassurance, I have to say. Let me just ask you, because you nicely also touched on cell phones, which is another area that you sent in some questions. People should sort of treat these, the iPhones or Androids, whatever they have, just the same way as we've been discussing computers and laptops, right?
Yes, but a lot of times what a lot of savvy users will do, they either jailbreak their phone or root it, which means that they can install any application from anywhere they acquire it. If you're doing that, you've really opened up yourself to a lot of a large threat terrain. So barring that particular activity, and the hacker's not trying to hack into the network that you're working on, either your cellular network or your Wi-Fi network, the next level that you have to be cautious of is installing applications on your phone, spy applications that will collect voice information on your conversation and then just send that file off to whoever installed it on your phone. So by all means, you got to treat your phone just like you would treat your computer. You got to be vigilant on the websites you go to, the links you click on, and at the end of the day, you don't want to install any malicious application that could exfiltrate any of your information out.
Yeah, sorry, Alex, let me just stick one more question with you or Helvi maybe too, and then I'm going to come to Brian and the other Alex. If we click on something that we shouldn't on an FIU system, we can call the IT support at FIU. What would you recommend if somebody does it with a personal cell phone? What do they do in that case?
Well, I would tell you that most individuals don't even know that they have something on their system. So at that stage, where do you go? And you don't have those resources. So if you work for a specific company, I would definitely use them as a source. Go to their IT department. I know that when anything happens on FIU, related to FIU, I always go to our IT folks who are really, really great at handling anything with regard to either your laptop, your phone, or any other systems that they interact with FIU. See, FIU is very vigilant in making sure that any device that interacts with FIU is safeguarded. So when you use, for example, the VPN, and make sure that you do have antivirus, and make sure that your OS has been patched correctly. So they do a lot, and many IT departments around the, many different organizations will do the same thing. But at the end of the day, most individuals don't really know whether they have one or not. And when they do find out, it's probably going to be too late, because that means that something has happened that brought their attention to it. Maybe their bank account is no longer has any funds. Something has occurred, and then they're trying to backtrack and find out how did that ever occur. So if you have a phone, my advice is don't click on any links that anybody sends you on text messages. Obviously, be vigilant on any websites that you go to. But look, I'll tell you something that's been going on, which is it's kind of crazy. You've got hackers nowadays They know that people are at home, they're monitoring this COVID outbreak. They're taking applications that are showing you the breakdown of where all the cases are. So individuals will download that to their own computer so they can be up to date on everything. Well, the hackers have made those programs and injected them with malicious code. So when you install this and you think you're monitoring, you know, on a minute by minute basis what's going on, they've also installed a Trojan on your system, and they're exfiltrating anything that you type in, anything that you have on your computer. So again, we're so vulnerable. And as Brian mentioned, and I agree with that 100%, you got to make sure what you click on, and don't set yourself up for failure.
I know Brian and Alex both want to jump in. Brian, why don't you go first, and then Alex, I'll come to you.
So I just wanted to expand what Alex was saying also to gaming systems. Out of our audience maybe using gaming systems, and gaming systems also have microphones, and many use cameras, you know, to stream live. And those are also really vulnerable sources to gather information, you know, to sort of you know, get sort of atmospherics as to what's going on in your particular household. But they're also connected to your networks, and they're also vulnerable spaces. So, you know, not just webcams and desktop and laptops and mobile devices, but also gaming systems and other things that are connected as part of the IoT portfolio, smart TVs, et cetera. They're all connected. And so you have to be vigilant across, you know, all these platforms.
Alex Crowther, go ahead.
I agree with the other Alex that I'm comfortable with the FIU system and very happy to be operating within it. Anybody that wants extra information on all this stuff, there's a great website out there. The Department of Homeland Security, their cybersecurity people are CISA, C-I-S-A, the Cyber and Information Security Agency at www.cisa.gov. And if you add a /coronavirus on there, they've got links to everybody, Health and Human Services, things like that. But you can get good, solid information out there from the U.S. government and not worry about downloading malware and things like that.
Helvi, let me come back to you where we started with this conversation to wrap things up. If you maybe want to add on the resources that FIU has for people who might need them.
Sure. I want to touch back on what Alex was saying. Whether you have an FIU-owned device or not, we are here to assist our students and our faculty and our community in general. If you have a phone and you clicked on something you're not sure, if you think your credentials have been stolen, we are here to assist you. So please reach out to us. We will guide you through the process. If you need to go through credit monitoring and all that, we are here to give you that information and do an investigation. As we have noticed, a lot of our information is also on our mobile phones, right? We have email, we have different resources we access. So it is important for us to also be aware so that we can help mitigate some of these issues, to understand if anything was accessed on the FIU side. So for sure, reach out to us. It doesn't matter if it's an FIU managed or owned device, we're here to assist. The other thing I wanted to add pretty briefly is we do have resources on our security website that talk about some of the things we need to look out for during this pandemic, during COVID-19, what to be aware of. We are constantly updating it with new information we have on how to secure your home network. That is a concern of ours, as Dr. Ponce mentioned. You have all these endpoints now connecting, and they're coming and accessing FIU resources. While we do our due diligence to verify and validate what's on the systems from a security stance and endpoint security, our kids being at home also poses a risk, right? They are on tablets, they're on computers, they're trying to get their coursework done as well. So just like Brian mentioned, the gaming devices, what are the systems that our children are using to access their schoolwork, and how are we securing these devices? And more importantly, we need to have the conversation with our kids. They're all online. We need to make sure they understand some of the basic principles of cyber hygiene and cybersecurity. Don't talk to strangers, basic information that we give them on everyday life.
Helvi, that's a great note to end on, and just to reinforce how reassuring it is to know that FIU IT is there to provide support, because a lot of us have our FIU accounts on our iPhone, so if we click on something that maybe we shouldn't have by mistake, to know that you're available is great. And a reminder that you should also have passcodes, passwords to open up and access your iPhone. Don't just have it readily available by just hitting one little button. So we all have steps that we can and should take to ensure security but this panel has done a great job in providing us on how to navigate working remotely and learning remotely during this new normal. So Helvi Longoria, Alex Pons, Alex Crowther, and Brian Fonseca, let me thank you very much for taking time during this very difficult period. Extremely helpful conversation. I think we'll come back on these issues in the near future, including focusing a little more on what threats are really out there. We certainly touched on it, but there are some even bigger players from Russia, China, Iran, and elsewhere that we may want to look at, and also discuss how government agencies are navigating during this difficult time, because they have secrets and classified information that they need to protect. Universities have personal confidential information they need to protect. And so how do we navigate those difficult waters? My thanks to all four of you very much. I'm David Kramer. Thanks for joining us for FIU Insights.